Rotarians and guests, today it's my great pleasure to introduce a person who's responsible for the management of one of the institutions nearest and dearest to the hearts of many, and I think I can say the hearts of many in this club. Erin Brumby is the General Manager of the Central Market in Adelaide. Erin has a degree in business and property, which he achieved at the University of South Australia. And from university, he moved on to being a leasing negotiator for no less than 12 different shopping centres around Adelaide. He then joined the Myer Centre, and indeed, when it changed ownership, became the centre manager of the Myer Centre. He decided after some time there, although it was a considerable challenge, to move on, and he worked for a number of years as Director of Assets for Defence SA until the opportunity came up to join the Central Market, which he did, and as I said, is now General Manager. Would you please welcome Erin Brumby?
Thank you, Chris, for inviting me to speak today to the Adelaide Rotary Club. I look forward to hearing the real reason behind the leg injury at some point while we have lunch. Firstly, when Chris asked me to speak, it was quite a challenge to decide on what topic to speak, as the market is a place that's rich in content, rich in history, and rich in stories. But I thought for today I'd start with the history of the market, what we've done in the last 12 months, what's changed, and where we're heading into the future. So just to get started, I'm talking about 5 topics. Firstly, the city market, the establishment of the Adelaide Central Market Authority, version 1, the re-establishment of the Adelaide Central Market Authority, version 2, past 12 months and the future. So taking everyone back to where the market started, it was 23rd of January 1869, so 147 years ago. There was a group of traders, of really market growers, down the Rundle Street markets that decided that they didn't like the commercial terms of the market, decided to rebel, and took a group out 3 a.m. in the morning, took their carts in procession up to where the Central Market is now and started selling their produce. That group sold out of their produce by 6 a.m. in the morning when 500 people from the southwestern corner of Adelaide flocked to the area. So in that, they created a whole new market where the Central Market is now. A year later, it was formally recognised as the City Market, and it's named the City Market all the way up until the mid-1900s. So the Central Market isn't the original name, it was originally called the City Market. Then at 1900, we had our first major building built, which is the old Federal Hall that faces onto Grote Street. There's a photo of it in the bottom left-hand corner. It's a beautiful heritage-listed building with a tower attached to it at the northern end. The tower, out of interest, has never been occupied, always been empty this entire time, and we're looking at how we can reuse that space presently. Then in 1925, we had our first fire in the market, so we had quite a few stalls burned down and had to be rebuilt and start again. That's what the market looked like in the early 1920s. It was a set of sheds, some power running across the rafters, and small stalls along the outside. Then 1965, the market name was changed, as I said, from the City Market to the Central Market. Following that, we had a redevelopment of the Central Market that included a new car park, multi-storey car park, and the stalls we have today. That's one of the photos of just after it was constructed in the 1960s. It was an open roof car park at that time and was later closed in the early 70s. 1977, another fire comes along and we burned through 12 stalls in the market. I'm really pleased to say today we have a very comprehensive fire sprinkler system through the market, so it's very unlikely it'll ever happen again. 1983, new verandas were constructed on both the Grote Street and Guja Street facades to bring them back in from the edge of the curbs as they originally were, to set them back for modern cars. 2012, the Adelaide Central Market Authority was established, and I'll talk through that in a little bit more detail in a moment. And then we come to 2016 today with myself and the board in the photo at the bottom right. So, the Adelaide Central Market Authority, version 1. We were set up as a subsidiary of Adelaide City Council under the Local Government Act. We have our own charter that was set in stone in Parliament. So we have on my left arm with thou shalt, on the right arm thou shalt not, that were things we're allowed to do. A good question though is, why was it established? Why did we move from an old model where there was a managing agent in place and a working group of council? At the time the authority was created, the market was in decline. There was a lot of friction with the traders, between traders and council, and the council decided that its primary core business wasn't actually running retail shopping centres or retail facilities or managing a market. So at that time they decided to establish the authority and had a board of 7 established and a CEO appointed shortly afterwards. At that point, the CEO lasted about 12 months before resigning and leaving the state. They then appointed an acting CEO and went on search for a second CEO. They found a second CEO in Melbourne, moved to Adelaide. He was with the market for about another 12 months until he resigned and left. And at that point, unfortunately, the first board resigned and left the market. So you can imagine it was quite a time of turmoil through the market. There was a lot of friction going on between traders. The market business continued to decline due to a number of factors, I think including the management at the time. At that point, a new market board was created and a new chairman was appointed in Nick Begakis. Nick's spoken here before, I believe, to the group. He's a fantastic chairman, well experienced, sits on a number of boards around South Australia. He then assembled a board with the assistance of Adelaide City Council. So I have 6 board members plus Nick. On the board we have a trader from our trader advisory group, the chairman of that group, and also a councillor in the Deputy Lord Mayor, Megan Hender. I was then appointed CEO or General Manager in March of 2015, and then I started to assemble the team of people I needed in the market office to actually make this happen. So that we could get the job done, really. A lot of people ask me, friends in particular, why did I choose the job? Because, they went through 2 CEOs, 2 acting CEOs, and an entire board, so there was quite a bit of risk associated with the role. From my point of view, there were 3 reasons. I grew up in a family that was a big part of retail management in South Australia, and my parents still manage retail assets across South Australia. My father developed the arcade next to the central market, so I grew up in the central market itself and I understand the importance to South Australia. I really wanted to move back into retail where the buzz was, and really the final thing is I thought, for what is one of Adelaide's flagship assets, why are we having these problems? We should be able to manage it and keep it going, turn the business around and really make it something special. So I threw my hat in the ring and was successful in being appointed CEO. So what have we covered in the past 12 months under the new authority? We've established monthly celebrations through the market. So every month we celebrate a different form of food or cuisine that ensures it meets with the requirements of one of our trader groups. So we celebrate Coffee Month, Cheese Month, Truffles, all these different monthly events. So whenever the customer comes in, there's something changing every month in the market. We got on board with the Tour Down Under, got involved in that project. They're very close to us in Victoria Square with their major event, and we saw how we could get on board and certainly worked closely with them. We went to the first Royal Show that the market's ever been involved in last year, which for us is a real grassroots campaign to get kids to understand, where does fruit and veg really come from? It doesn't just appear in a fruit and veg bowl on a table. It actually comes from somewhere. So we invite them to come into the market from our stand. Our PR value we achieved, and this is unfunded PR, was $911,000 worth. The market is a mecca of content for media agencies, and we wanted to get good stories out there. And we found the good stories and got them out to the media agencies. Myself and the chairman met with numerous reporters, talked them through the changes in the market, and it was very positively picked up. From there, we celebrated the 147th birthday of the market. We decided the market's birthday should be recognised. So we did a reenactment of the horse and carts coming from Rundle Street. We hired actors from the Fringe to be part of it, to sort of yell out as they were coming down that they were unhappy with commercial terms and rents too high and all those things, and come down to the market. It was a fantastic day. We upped our social media use dramatically. We had a full-time digital marketing coordinator now who focuses just on our social media. The big red man. So we acquired the giant Father Christmas from Rundle Mall. Most people could probably remember it being on the front of John Martin's for decades. It came to my attention that there was a very high likelihood it was going to be scrapped, so sent to Wingfield, and I thought we just can't let that happen. So we got in contact with the right people at David Jones, got the schematics for the red man, and he fitted perfectly onto our market tower. So we negotiated terms to take him off of his hands, retain him in South Australia, which was just a wonderful, wonderful thing. And then finally, we created a community kitchen. And I've got a photo of that after the red man. A side note, we actually have found out that we believe he's the largest Father Christmas in the world. And so we're currently talking to Guinness Book of Records to get him certified. We're 2 feet taller than the largest one at the North Pole, which is also not at the North Pole, but it's close. So we're looking to take on that opportunity. But our community kitchen, this was a great endeavour. 12 months ago, in August last year, we did a joint venture with Farquhar Kitchens to build a brand new kitchen down on the market floor that was of a standard that chefs would want to come and cook at, and that we could actually invite community groups and different cultural groups to come and use, free of charge, celebrate their national days, and share their cuisine and food with the public. Since the 1st of August last year, up until the end of last financial year, we used it 126 times. So every second day nearly, there was an event on at the community kitchen celebrating a cuisine or celebrating some kind of cultural food. So what else happened in the last 12 months? We established a number of staff appointments. So we have a new operations manager in Brett Chalmers, the ex-AFL footballer, the father of Kyle Chalmers now, probably better known for. He's our operations manager. So he came to us with experience in markets, having worked at the produce market at Paraka, and a really great country guy. So he gets along with the traders, communicates beautifully, does a wonderful job. We elevated our security manager to be security and maintenance manager because he was a young guy full of energy wanting to do more work. So he now looks after maintenance, and in the last 12 months he's done 1,074 maintenance jobs, and that's organising 1,074 different contractors for that work. Outstanding job. We've now got an office administrator and projects manager, and we appointed our final board member in Andrew Jonatz, who's a very experienced property and accountant person. Our incidents in the market of trips and falls dropped from 42 to 24 through diligent follow-up with my team on any issues that we had. We even had a water leak. SA Water, we keep blowing water leaks in the street. We have 2 underground pipes in the market that used to be streets. One of them decided to blow up inside the market. So you can imagine the challenge and mess that caused to get that fixed on a Sunday morning before trade started. And then just finally on that, we also constructed our latest release, which is our producer in residence. This is what the producer in residence stall looks like. We launched it 6 weeks ago. The concept behind it is we built the stall, it's food grade. Local artists and producers can come and operate from the stall at $250 a week for 2 weeks. So come in, try your product out with the customer, try it out with our traders, see if it works, see if our traders might become wholesalers or a future trader for the market itself. The first producer was a young lady by the name of, who has a business called Sucre, doing French patisserie, just was selling out daily. We then had a previous MasterChef consultant doing handmade, hand-churned butters, which again sold beautifully. and the latest producer in residence we had was a business making gluten-free donuts. And they tasted great. I tried a few, they were delicious. To give you an idea, she sold through 1,000 donuts in the first week at $7 a donut. So for a new artisan business to have that kind of seed money built up behind it could help launch their future in South Australia. So as the Central Market, we see ourselves in a position where we should be offering those opportunities to young South Australians in artisan business. We also looked at the car park from a retail point of view. So Adelaide City Council runs U-Parks all around the city. I would suggest that many of them aren't focused towards improving retail revenue. We took ours from that position. We changed the tariffs. We discovered we had 32 different tariffs that someone could be charged depending on what time they came in through the day and on a particular day. We simplified that back to $5 an hour and the first hour free. Since we did that in the last 6 months, we've had 70,000 more vehicles through the market car park. That then leads to greater turnover for our traders and greater prosperity for the market as a whole. We're currently upgrading the lighting through the market to latest state-of-the-art LED, repainting it and giving it a good freshen up. We completed 32 leasing deals in the market, which doesn't, to some might not sound like a lot, but we locked down all these leases that had been not renewed for numerous years. And I'd probably like to point out at this point that the leases at the market are only 5 years long, but the average tenure of a trader at the market is 44 years. So very unusual in the retail field to find that length of time, but it shows the community and family nature of the Central Market, part of why it's so special. We introduced Poe to the market with her jam face business. SBS then shot a program there, and we had 4 episodes in the market on national television. That was a real win. We attended the National Markets Conference. That's an annual conference every year that the Central Market had never been to, yet we're considered one of the best markets in Australia and in the top 10 produce markets in the world. We built some new relationships with both the council, the trader group, and the traders themselves. I cannot stress the amount of time I spent initially on the market floor every day, hearing their stories, listening to the issues they had. And when you consider they'd been there 44 years, and they say, Aaron, you're number 15, I agree, I understand. They've been there that long, they've seen the change, their experiences are probably right. We then introduced some new market rules as well, which needed updating just to try and manage things a bit better through the market. So the future, where are we heading now? There's really 3 key things I wanted to share which form our strategic plan that we have at the moment. So we have a 3-year strategic plan which we're 12 months into. The first is about access. 75% of the reason why someone chooses to shop where they do is how easy it is to access that facility, to get in and out, how long is it going to take to get around and get the goods you need. So for us, a key part is if you drive down Grote Street from the west, there's no right-hand turn into our car park. A decade ago, there used to be a right-hand turn into the car park, but it was removed when Grote Street was upgraded. We've been working with council to try and get that reinstituted back into place. It's now been agreed it will be reinstituted. The funds have been sent to ACMA to make it happen, and we'll be constructing it in Q4 of this financial year. That allows us to say to the people in the western suburbs, hey, we're sorry for disenfranchising you for 10 years. Come back to the market and visit all your favourites. The second strategy is our regional strategy. This one's working really well. What it's about is finding an actual competitive, sustainable difference for the market. It's a very competitive environment in the retail industry these days. We've got Aldi opening up 60 supermarkets in South Australia. The price of bananas and general fruit and veg is still the same price it was a decade ago. Margins are squeezing. It's a tough environment. So for us, we want to find that point of difference. That lies in regional stalls. So we've introduced a Kangaroo Island stall in the market in the past 12 months. That's an aggregator for all the businesses on Kangaroo Island to send their product through to sell in the city. So consumers, tourists can come to the market, taste, try and buy the best the regions have to offer. Now, if you look at the KI store, there are about 40 different producers selling from that location, 20 of which had never sold a product off of Kangaroo Island before. 20. So this creates employment in the regions and grows the state's revenue. For us, we're now talking to the Limestone Coast, Flinders Ranges, Eyre Peninsula about similar stalls through the market. We believe that's a type of opportunity that Coles, Woolworths, Aldi can't replicate. So we're going to be introducing more of these stalls in the future. And the final one in the future is really taking the market to the people. For too many years, the market's been looking internally. It's been very insular. We want to find ways of taking product out to the customer through click and collect style systems, through deliveries to homes. We're going to be launching a new e-commerce platform in the next 12 months and getting the goods out of the market. So we can't always expect the consumer to come to the market. We want an opportunity to also take goods out to them. 4 final things that we're working on as well. Traders are investing back in their businesses. And I'd like to assure everyone at this point that as a South Australian, I understand the grunge factor the market has. We don't want a stale, clean, 2-pack finish to everything we do. We want to keep that. The traders are behind it and they are investing back in their stalls. Businesses are selling. We've got numerous sale contracts through the market at the moment, which is a wonderful sign of prosperity in the market itself and businesses changing hands. There's a growing inner city residential population and we want to capitalise on that. There's a really great group of loyal customers that are going to be moving into the city shortly and we will be focusing on them. And finally, the market arcade redevelopment. So the arcade next to the market to the east, the lease on that expires September 2018. It reverts back to council and will be redeveloped. Now that site can accept probably 2 22-storey buildings on it and a whole new redevelopment. So there's a really large retail opportunity there and commercial opportunity that we hope gets realised. And just one final thing, I guess to share a first for the market as well on a slightly different topic. I've actually entered the Royal Show in a cooking division for baking Anzac biscuits. A number of traders do that every year. They do different baking categories and they've invited me to join them and I've decided to do that. So tomorrow morning I'll be taking my Anzac biscuits into the Royal Show to have them judged. I chose Anzac biscuits because my grandmother taught me the recipe and she was actually born on Anzac Day in 1915, the landing of Gallipoli. So I hope I get up all right and they enjoy the biscuits and get some success there. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Aaron has agreed to answer some questions. I just have one. I'll exert the chair's privilege. We understand that the Adelaide City Council owns the assets and that the running of the place is down to an independent board. I believe you have an interesting employment arrangement in the middle of all that.
Yeah, I do, thank you, Chris. I'm actually employed by the Adelaide City Council, seconded to the authority, answer to the chairman of the board, and he's the only person who can hire and fire me. So it's a very different structure, but it's been structured so that we can act as a separate entity, can move quickly on retail opportunities and aren't influenced by any others. I have the same powers delegated to me as the Adelaide City Council CEO. So we were able to get the job done. Question? Darcy.
Very interesting talk. Thanks very much, Aaron.
Pleasure.
Just development. Is there going to be any change in the... wonderful talk. Thanks very much, Aaron.
Thank you.
With the developments, is there going to be any changes in the shopping hours? I'm an avid shopper there, and Wednesdays you go in sometimes, and some people are open, some people are not. Mondays even, some people. Is there going to be any change in those 2 days in particular?
It's a really interesting question. I do get asked that a lot, actually. As a market, we trade more hours than any other market in Australia by about 6.5 hours through the week. We see the opportunity in the future for some of the hours to change. Wednesday, we've recently changed the rules for the market so that if you do open, you must be open between 10 and 3. On Mondays, some stalls do open. We actually act as a public thoroughfare as public land, which is an interesting dynamic as well. But that's probably the extent of the change at the moment because we want to really ensure that the market stays as a market and doesn't migrate towards being a Westfield centre.
All right, I have one more. I know, Aaron, that when you took over, is that the mic there? I know that the market had been through a period of decline, and in fact, when you took over, I believe there was actually some vacancies at the market, and I also believe that the position now is much improved. Would you like to tell us about that?
Absolutely. When I started, we had 6 long-term vacancies in the market. You literally couldn't give a stall away. We've now worked through that leasing program around that. We've brought the right traders in, like the KI store, Poe with her shop, and a number of other businesses now recognised by Gourmet Traveller. So we're full, and we actually have a waiting list of 27 pre-qualified traders all wanting to get into the market. First place I've ever worked in retail where you have a waiting list behind you, and that allows us to really pick and choose the best for the market and not take the first offer.
If there are no more questions,
Thank you.